Dobro jutro. Dobro jutro, dobrodošli. Dobro jutro in prijazno dobrodošli. Torej, welcome at AmCham Business Breakfast, the first one in 2018. And now I would like to have the latest from the AmCham. So let's see what's happening at AmCham.
How easy is it to save as much as 5.5 million euros per year? Just use e-invoices. How? The Managers Association of Slovenia will show you. They want to clean Slovenia of paper bills, and they are just one of 3 organizations that are addressing 3 challenges in the 4th round of the Partnership for Change. This is the Partnership for Change, and the Snowball, the Center of Optimism, wants to design a prototype, a country encouraging for talents. The 3rd challenge is run by Inženirke in Inženiri Bomo, and their idea is to excite 300,000 Slovenians with the idea of Slovenia, the green reference country in digital Europe. And they want to do this through a quiz. The quiz raises awareness of the achievements of Slovenian companies, innovators, and other Slovenian pioneers. The Partnership for Change is thus really becoming a national, innovative platform of cooperation, and no challenge is too difficult for them. In June, AmCham Slovenia will host its last business breakfast. Aisha Vodnik, CEO of AmCham Slovenia, announced on her Facebook that 18 years was long enough period that they felt they were exhausted. They felt they had nothing left to offer their members and their guests of Chamber, which unites 340 Slovenian and foreign companies. In explanation, in this Facebook post, they write that they decided on this measure because similar events have already expanded well in the Slovenian space.
Yeah, everybody who knows us, who knows my team, knows that we are not exhausted, but highly motivated to continue with our AmCham Business Breakfasts and to continue to inspire positive change. But now I have a question. 3 things were said about Partnership for Change, and they were not fake news. So anyone? Can you repeat what 3 projects are within the Partnership for Change that AmCham and Public Administration Ministry are organizing? Can I? Yeah, Quizum. Did I hear Quizum? Bravo, Nina. Yeah, indeed. So do you see? Everybody remembered the fake news, but nobody remembers the real news. So just quickly to repeat, 3 projects were really are in the progress in the Partnership for Change: paperless invoices with the Združenje Manager, the next talents, or the talents, and how Slovenia can become a prototype for talents that Snežna Kepa, the Center of Optimism, are doing, and Quizum. So here we need your active participation in the 3 projects. Either you are a family member, you have kids, so you can call your schools and say, we would like to get invoices via email and not anymore on paper. I would like to welcome Jure Tepina to take the stage. Thank you, Jure.
Thank you very much, Aisha. Good morning, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're enjoying your food. We're very welcome. I was the guy before reporting on facts and alternative facts, and my reporting was beautiful. It was done by a stable genius, and I had the largest and the most beautiful audience in the history of AmCham, period. Both here in person and around the globe. These attempts to lessen the enthusiasm about my reporting are shameful and wrong. So, some of you may remember these words. I was paraphrasing the first press conference of Trump administration, the first Sean Spencer inauguration, crowd speech and size, just to emphasize how pettiness can affect and occupy our daily lives on a day-to-day basis. But as we will see this morning, this pettiness can cost us a lot of trouble, a lot of time, and also a lot of money. But as we see this morning, before we begin, I can introduce my panel. I would like to introduce you also to our keynote listener. He doesn't like this title. Mr. Žiga Turk, keen technology user, one of Slovenia's first bloggers, tweeps, or tweet people, prominent personality on the web, and not since long the member of high-level group of European Commission on fake news and online dissemination, disinformation. So Žiga, could you please tell us what your group will do, what's your area of responsibility, area of operations, what do you expect from this group, and what should we expect from you?
First of all, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. I think it's the first time that I'm in a role of a keynote listener. So basically, I think I should be the one listening most carefully to what the panel has to say, and I'm actually looking very much to the input of that. Now, to give you a little bit of background, there are quite a lot of technology companies in AmCham, and quite a lot of you who are well-versed of technology, you have been using the internet. And there are basically two things that were disrupted, that were changed by the internet technology. First of all, the ease of exchanging information, of sending information around. This became trivial. And the second one, connecting people, networking online using the internet, became trivial as well. And if you are in a business that distributes information, or if you are in a business that connects people, your business would be disrupted by the internet. Now, what are examples of businesses distributing information? Newspapers, media, education. What are the businesses or organizations that connect people? Well, things like AmCham as well, and that's why you are coming together for breakfast, because you cannot have breakfast online. But it is also political parties that are connecting people. So it was the media that was disrupted by the internet, it was the political parties that were disrupted by the internet, and they were feeling the pain for a long time. Audiences went down, you would have new political parties springing up, you would have political startups coming up, you would have people with near zero political background winning elections in the US, you would have outsiders tilting the scale with Brexit, you would have fringe parties preventing that a normal coalition would be set up in Germany. So this was an alarm for traditional politics, and it was an alarm for traditional media. And those two together are looking for a solution. And the narrative of this solution is, oh, but all this new communication reality is creating fake news. This monopoly or this nice symbiosis that politics had with the media. Of course, the media likes to say, oh, we are the watchdogs, which the left media is a watchdog to the right politics and vice versa. But on the other hand, the left media supports the left politics and the right media supports the right politics. So this symbiosis was disrupted. The narrative of fake news was invented, trying to, well, save what can be saved. There was a European Parliament declaration on the subject that the European Commission should do something about it. This group was set up to propose policy options for Europe so that not every member state would have a solution on its own. These solutions of their own are happening already. Germany passed the so-called Facebook law. France has ambitions to tighten the freedom of speech on the internet, and so on and so on. So you have this kind of, I think, a coalition of politics, of old media. Then you have the internet companies like Facebook, Google, Twitter, and so on. And they don't want any trouble with that. They want to make money. And finally, you have the fact checkers who have seen, well, there could be a business opportunity for us checking all this fake stuff that is happening all around. What, in my view, is at stake is basically the freedom of speech. is the freedom, will the internet be preserved as a space where you have a fair competition of ideas, where truth, what is reliable, what is right, what is correct, is established through dialogue of equal parties? Or will there be somebody who will be telling us what can be discussed and what can't be discussed? And with the motive of preserving the openness and freedom of the internet, of preserving the right to seek truth, to seek correct information, not to be given correct information. With this ambition, I joined that group.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Turk. Hopefully we will hear his comments at the end, and also I would like to mention that all the comments from the audience is very well accepted, and also we encourage you, at least at the end, that you also have your comments and maybe if you have any questions to our panel. And without further ado, I would like to introduce my panel today. And first, I would like to invite Tjaša Slokar, Director of News Media of ProPlus, in charge of top-rated news programs such as Svet, 24 Preverjeno, and Digital24.com, which makes her my boss, so bear with me if I'll go easy on her. And our guest from Serbia, Jugoslav Ćosić, News Director of N1 Serbia. They're the regional partner of CNN. In the past 2 years, N1 has become a steady and reliable choice for viewers in the Balkans. And Jugoslav started journalism in Belgrade Index 202, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, which is brother of Slovenia's Val 202. And if you will hear the hint of Aussie accent, that's because he was working at Sydney radio for many years. And the third panelist, Mr. Matej Potokar, Executive Vice Chairman of Cozy Labs, a high-tech company that was founded through Institute Josef Stefan, and it's spearheading the world industries in fusion electricity, if I'm not mistaken, telescopes, IT technology, and a bit of trivia. I don't know if you know this. If you Google Mr. Potokar, you will find the first hit on Google, Matej Potokar / the President of Slovenia. And that's not a fake news. It's a clip from a conference, Slovenia 2030, where he was also CEO of, or GM of Microsoft Slovenia. It's a joke. No, it's not a joke. Google yourself. So, welcome, everybody. And like it has to be, we have to start with Our Lady. Tjaša, in your opinion, what is fake news? What constitutes fake news? I think this is something that Žiga Turk's group will also be discussing in Brussels and at the Commission. Is there a mere lie, or does it have to have a certain features that it constitutes as fake news?
I think that fake news is simply a lie, distributed through the media and produced by political parties, government, or individuals who wants to destroy you or maybe your competition. And I think that fake news is not something new, but just very interesting that it was the fake news, it was the word of the last year. That means that we all know very well what fake news is. And I think that you know what is fake news when you become a victim of fake news. So before the internet or before the rise of the social media, it wasn't so easy to distribute information. You know, for us who are working in the media for 20 or more years, Yugoslav now, that at the beginning we have to collect one information and check all the facts the whole day when we publish it at the evening. But now, with the rise of the social media and Facebook and Twitter, everything is published immediately. So I think that fake news is not something new, but is more, people share more fake news than before.
Yeah.
So this is dangerous.
So it's more talked about than it used to be.
Yeah.
Yugoslav, do you agree Serbia has its fair share of propaganda or disinformation disseminated through media? What do you think fake news?
Well, I think that we in Serbia invented fake news. we just didn't know that it's called fake news.
So it wasn't Donald Trump.
Yeah, it wasn't Donald Trump for sure. So this is, you know, we are now, let's say, like a month in the eve of the Belgrade elections. So whoever would like to deal with it, let's say to survey, investigate, should come to Belgrade, and we'll be able in the next 1 month to write the book size of Bible with the same font, you know. So it would be a really, really good research.
Written in stone.
Yeah. And, you know, we have huge experience in fake news, talking about like last 2 decades in all the fields. So it's not just in a political fight, which is obviously the most important for the society, but also talking about entertainment, talking about sport, all the fields.
So can you give us some examples from, like, you had, as you mentioned, you had Slobodan Milosevic before, but also before at the times of Communist Party. But right now you have Donald Vučić. Can you give us some recent examples of fake news in Serbia?
Well, I can offer you example with our group, United Group and KKR. So since we, even before we appeared on the market, I'm talking about N1 TV, so we have really, really heavy and hostile welcome. And since that time, because they obviously recognize pretty good, you know, what type of the station is it going to be that we are going to deal with the investigative reports, actually, that we are going to be really, really professional TV station. So they have, as soon as we appear on the market, they have started to call us American TV, CAI TV. So we experienced a month ago that Interior Minister, who's supposed to protect the media and the journalists, called us publicly in the front of national TV stations, CIA TV. And you know, they bring danger to our journalists. So what's in the middle of the fake news? What is the scent actually? So the General Petraeus, who used to be CIA director, he left the army, he left the CIA a long time ago, and he became chairman of the KKR Global Institute. So Institute is dealing with the risk assessments. And this is what is he doing. But they used that fact to say, they faked actually that he's running the KKR, that he's the owner of KKR, and that's how they actually spread the fake news that we are under control
of the American government.
American government, CIA, etc., etc.
But at the beginning of N1, if I'm not mistaken, if you allow me a jump from our topic, you already positioned yourself against Vučić. You were the first television, before you even aired, to film the beating of his brother. And you had, you were trying to be influenced by the Serbian Prime Minister not to air that clips, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, we picked up that clip. Actually, there was a pride in Belgrade. So, and his brother and the brother of the mayor of the Belgrade has been beaten by the special police force that used to carry the safety around the pride. And then, like, you know, our journalist picked up that fight that when they was beaten, and straight away was born like conspiracy theory that we knew was going to happen, and that was the base for massive attacks on us, that we knew was going to happen, that we were in deal, you know, with some special police sources. We knew that they are going to be beaten over there, etc., etc. And then Vučić himself, just recently, 2 months ago, after like 2 years of the court trial, said, if you think that N1 was there by incident, you are totally wrong. So that's also fake news that they have spread, that we trying, you know, to create a really bad picture about us.
So what I guess I'm trying to say is N1 as a business was already exposed or vulnerable to fake news attacks. Matej, what is your opinion on fake news? How would you define it? from a non-journalistic point of view?
I would define it as a reality. And we need to take it in consideration that even more than in the past, we need to try to control the things which are influencing your business or your society you live in. But definitely we cannot, as Giga said at the beginning, that's the reality, that's what we have. And I think that there will be a big force to define a kind of trustful sources, media, and all the other stakeholders you work and live with. So in business we live in a fantastic era, actually, because it's all about opportunities. Simply, all about opportunities, because the world is changing, the transformation, Industry 4.0, and all these things, which are reality already. And all these uncertainties, on one side it's big opportunities, but on the other side a lot of uncertainties, where to go, and
threats.
If we need anything more, it's an additional fake news. We need to think about, is this true, is not true, is this forced as intentionally, by some from your competitor, and especially in corporate world, it's not new, absolutely not new. It's already, I think even before internet there were ways, but thanks God I was not a part of that. So.
Yeah, so I guess what you're saying, digital is not coming, digital is here.
Absolutely.
And we'll talk a little bit later about how to adapt to all those new opportunities and threats. But first, I would like to talk a little bit about our situation in Slovenia as well, Tjaša. When was the first time that you experienced that something was amiss, something is not right in the context of fake news, not propaganda, in recent years in Slovenia?
In recent years, maybe during the migrant crisis, that was in the October 2016, and I remember that immediately a lot of people from Syria and Iraq came to Slovenia, and the Slovenian people were also afraid. And then I remember that some articles on Facebook, the letter of the angry policeman, then another article, which was fake. Then another article that a group of migrants robbed the gas station in Prekmurje. That was fake news, because then at that time we were trying to check the facts in this letter of angry policeman, and also about that rope, and it wasn't true. So I think that that was the first time I saw the fake news in that version, modern version in Slovenia. But we remember the fake news even before the internet, because before every election, during the campaign, it was fake news.
Yeah, but it was called spin-off.
Yeah, spin-off. Yeah. So maybe that was the first time. But now I think we have election now in June, at the beginning of June, and I think that will be the first serious election. We had election, presidential election last year.
Yeah, meaningful right now.
But I think that will be very interesting times also for us. I am sure that will be a lot of fake news, a lot of disinformations, and that means a lot of work for us, for journalists, to check all those things.
So we'll talk about our roles as gatekeepers, and as Giga said, that there will be also a role for journalists from left and right, and we have to define all these new relationships. But Matej, if we're talking on one side of we need time to adapt, to check, to double check the fake news stories, to detect them, would we be better off with artificial intelligence, with algorithms?
This will definitely help. I'm sure about that, because artificial intelligence itself brings many areas where it will be extremely positive usage of artificial intelligence. Because artificial intelligence itself, it's not a rocket science, by the way. Artificial intelligence itself is able has a power to work with an enormous amount of data in a second. So there is no human capacity like that. And using that part in a medicine, for example, to make a diagnosis based on the knowledge base, which is enormous, or the global knowledge base, is definitely one positive side. Or checking fake news, because based on some algorithms behind, I think that artificial intelligence will be soon able to recognize, is this fake or other news? But on the other side, artificial intelligence has many threats, because humans are still extremely creative, you know, and we can use each and every news or each and every data in a positive or a negative way. Yeah. And that's a big threat. But in this case of fake news, I think that artificial intelligence will be positive side.
So what do you think is the biggest challenge right now? Is it the problem not existing, but the detection of fake news at this moment?
I think so, because, you know, we have an attack of information around us from all the sources, from all the media. And media is a business as well. We all know that. And in Slovenia as well.
Yeah,
well, I'm sorry to say that, but that's the reality.
It is. We had our fair share.
It's a big business, yeah. And I think that, you know, as I said, as in the business or in a normal society, you need to have trustful sources. And we will be able, we will be hard to recognize which are trustful sources and which are not, because we don't know the story behind. And that's a challenge at this moment.
Jugoslav, how do you detect fake news, and how do you react to it as a CEO of a company, not just as a journalist?
We actually put a lot of effort, you know, to check the things around and the news around, because we are very rare doing it in Serbia. I'm a little bit more conservative, you know. We can use artificial intelligence, we can use the law, which is a topic that is rising those days in the fight against the fake news. But I think, you know, the best way to fight fake news is the real news. Is the real news, and nothing is such effective like real news, but it's senseless if you do not have a space to put the real news. So, which means the answer is in the free media, and that would be my to all the business people who are sitting here. You know, you will face the business news many times in the future, so nothing is such efficient in the fight against the fake news like real news. But for that fight, you need to have a free media. That's actually what I think about 10.1, and we have just a few free media in Serbia, maybe one TV station, one daily, a few weekly magazines. And you know, in the environment like this, the fake news live forever. So if there is nobody who can delete the fake news as all lies repeated many times are going to live forever. So this is, I think that it is my belief, you know, that you should support the as much existence of as much free media as like the country can swallow.
Yeah. So the challenge will be, as Žiga Turk said, that freedom of speech is the key word probably here. But just to quickly, in Slovenia's case, I think I can assure that as for our companies, we have no influence from our owners, and Tjaša can probably concur. But what are your experience with this shortly? Did you have any calls from the owner to this story, to that story?
No.
Produce this fake information, leak
no,
this?
We you know, like I'm with N1 from the very first day. So, you know, building a TV station is complicated, hard, expensive, stressful, and
like
you know,
company,
everything
yeah.
that is by default annoying the investor, you know. So, and we passed a hard time, you know, trying to build up the TV station. But since very first day, we have a really good support by our investor. They understood the process how it works. So it lasted for 1.5 years. And then since very first day, we have started to broadcast the program. We never had experienced any like heavy matter, you know, with our investor. They always support us. And I cannot tell you that there was no pressure on the investor by the Serbian government. It's just contrary. They try to press the owners and us like several times. So, but this is more a question for our investors. But I know the outcome. There was no outcome, you know. We do our business on regular basis. We are registered in Luxembourg, so which means we are not Serbian TV station. And one in actually the Adria News in Belgrade is production group that is connected with Luxembourg TV station. So we have our board quarterly over there. We discuss the program, the problems, the future, the editorial policy, and everything else. Sometimes they ask for explanation. And this is something that is quite regular in our business. So in terms of relations between our investor and us, I just can tell you that we didn't experience any pressure, and I just can encourage you. Okay.
All right, hopefully everybody's enjoying their food. Everybody's so quiet. Probably that means we're very interesting, but we're gonna get even more interesting. As we said, our challenge is how to detect fake news. So I would like to invite Gorazd Jukovic from SDA, and he will explain you how can we detect fake news using Slovenian knowledge and other functions of event registry. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good morning to everyone, also on my behalf. We've had some interesting starting points here, starting with what AI can possibly do or how it can help. So I'm here to present Event Registry. It's a startup, a Slovenian startup, providing AI solutions for media publishers. And the product that is being offered is Event Registry. I'm Gorazd Jukovic, as Jure has said. I'm a member of the New Technologies Department at STA, the Slovenian press agency. We're a partner of Event Registry, the company, and this media partner providing media know-how. So just to start off my presentation, we've heard some interesting, our panelists have already given us an interesting introduction, and basically it's, my introduction is pretty much the same. So how technology impacts fake news. There is a quote there from Edward R. Murrow, one of the most respected US journalists. He became famous reporting from, during World War II from Britain, the German bombing raids. He was reporting through, thank you. Yeah, this will be better, thank you. So Edward R. Murrow, one of the most respected US journalists, there's a quote there which basically is a testament to how technology impacts on fake news, on spread of lies. So he was a radio journalist in essence. He became famous as a radio journalist during World War II. With the advent of television, this is a quote, once he became a television presenter. So television made it much easier to spread lies at that time, and now we're experiencing the same thing with internet as well. So this is not, fake news is nothing new. We've heard this from our panel today. Every technological advance has made it easier to spread lies, and internet is absolutely no exception in that respect. An important aspect that happened in the development of the media, was obviously at the end of the 19th century we had the rise of independent media, of fact-checking, of unbiased media. This happened at the end of the 19th century. This is the model that was prevalent during the whole of the 20th century, entering into the internet age. And now this is the model that is being challenged with the prevalence of internet. So I guess this is one of the aspects that we're facing now. As much as technology impacts on how information flows, it is also important. It is the same tool that can help control the spread of lies. This is what I'm trying to present today, and this is what Event Registry in essence is. So just a quick rundown of Event Registry. It's an aggregator of news from around the world. So we collect around 30,000. We scour around 30,000 news sources. It is based on an AI-supported tool for analyzing the news. Apologize. Yep. It has the ability of clustering and of clustering news by event, by topic, and we also provide then advanced solutions for media publishers tailored to their needs. So if I could just give you a quick rundown, what happens is the 30,000 sources that we check, that this engine checks, we bring it in, the text analysis technology that is the AI behind it, reads the content, identifies what is appearing in this, so the people, the places, the keywords. The articles are then clustered by various criteria, and the same technology then allows for various further uses. So we have the ability to group events, to group articles into events, to group articles by topic, and so on. So why is this important? I'll just give you a rundown. So this is basically the media functionalities. The text analysis allows things that appear in the articles, in the news, to be automatically tagged, which means basically to identify what appears in them. This in turn allows automatic categorization and grouping. And then we're going down event clustering, summarization, visualization. So these are analysis functions. And we also then have the filtering functions and related content, ability to actually to identify related content. The second thing that this technology allows is obviously advanced news analysis. So we can now check how information flows, we can track a certain piece of news once it is published the first time, how it is republished by other publishers. This is one of the key aspects also in the spread of fake news. What happened was you had unknown publishers, and then you had many other publishers that sort of copied this news, but these were in essence outliers. These were media entities which had not been known before. Then you have also the ability to analyze the structure of reporting with this tool. So you can check the number of articles on a certain topic, or the length of articles, the words that are appearing in them, the sources that are being quoted. And all this in the end can be used to analyze the news for bias and for sentiment. So this is where we're getting now into the question of what is real, what is true, and what is fake, what are lies. So to give you an example how Event Registry, our technology, so the technology developed by the startup Event Registry, has been used to detect fake news. There's many ways to use the data, the analysis that is obtained through Event Registry. I'm going to just give you one example. This is one of the most recent examples. It actually was part of a hack meet in the US. A group of US students from Swarthmore College used Event Registry technology. They coupled it with their own stance detection system, which they basically developed themselves. And what they actually were able to do is to allow users to import an article that they found on the internet, which would then be compared to top news sources from around the world to verify whether the facts in that article correspond to what trusted sources or the top news sources from around the world are reporting. And basically, you would then get an answer from this machine to tell you whether the facts from a certain article are true or not. So this is in short, this is a very complex system otherwise, but in short is what Event Registry is, what it provides. It's AI technology to help you analyze, to help you track the news, because obviously, as we know, the spread of information has only increased with the internet, if we return to that. And one of the ways to be able to manage the flow, to be able to keep track of what is going on, is through AI technology. So thank you for your attention. That is all from me for now. And I'll let the panel continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Matej said it's not a rocket science, but I would not agree with that. We're talking about this artificial intelligence and algorithms. this used to be people. Now it's just robots. Are we cool with that? Is that okay with us, Tjaša, Jugoslav?
No, I'm not cool. I'm not cool with that. I support actually. Sorry,
I believe in people.
I support really. You know,
So you don't see it as a new tool that can supplement the gatekeepers' role?
No. I didn't say that. Well, I just say, you know, it's danger if there is no people. So this is exactly what I would like to say. You know, there rise up the question of the legislation. So you can go to fight the fake news through the more sharp law, but you always put in risk the media freedom. So there's always danger that you can destroy the peace of the media freedom, and that's why it cannot work without the people, you know. That's why I think that we need a really, really good professionals. We need a good teams that are doing the fact check, as you guys from Pop TV are doing, as we are. Well, for us, it's not important to be first. It's important to be accurate, and this is something that we are probably the best recognized within the Serbia. So I support artificial intelligence. I support legislation, but not over legislation. Yeah. And I just think that without strong rules, strong people, and strong media in profession, free media, that fight is going to be lost, you know.
Tjaša, Matej said before that there are threats. So what do you think are pros and cons of using this kind of technology to fight the fake information?
I believe in the traditional journalism in people, because
you guys are both old school. I'm more for artificial intelligence.
Because the real value of journalism is that we check, collect, edit, back, analyze, comment, and I think that we as editors or as a senior journalist, we have to educate journalists how to collect information, how to check information, how to filter information. I believe this is the opportunity for us that we become better media, you know, that we have to work, we have to do our job more professional than before. And so I believe in traditional journalism and in people. Not in technology. Because technology, we have internet to check all these things, you know.
Yeah.
So
we can use this tool.
Yeah, we don't need any additional algorithms or... Sorry.
Matej,
sorry for what?
Matej, as a technology guy, do you think this is also a question of democracy? Of course, they will say yes. But I'm asking you, who is very aware with all the pros and cons, and you were talking about threats. But if we stick to information that can ruin business, so do you think it's a question of democracy, of a law, that we take part of the traditional human being and leave it to robots?
I think it's a very hard question, and I think there is no yes and no. But I, as a human being, I'm absolutely yes, so no worries about being sorry, you know. Technology guy, yeah, but you know, at the end of the day, we are human beings. Today, the only difference between the artificial intelligence and robots, for example, on one side, and human beings is that we are emotional. Technology is not able yet to teach robots to become emotional. That's the only difference. Philosophical question is technology able to make robots emotional? In my opinion, unfortunately, yes, to a certain extent. You know, as a joke, you know, if referees last week on the match against Germany are robots, we will win, right? That is one good news.
But what would be the emotion of
let's
winning?
go back. Yeah, exactly, because there was no emotions. I don't want to go in that area. But yeah, I'm absolutely supportive to have a legal system behind to make people as human beings, as decision makers at the end of the day. Yeah. Otherwise, we will go south, I believe.
Yeah, we'll talk about
we will go in wrong direction. So I think that we will be smart enough. You know, and there is a lot of initiatives. It's not a question for this floor here, It's a big debate, For example, like tax on robots. If you implement robots in the company or in the factory, you need to pay additional taxes. But it's just slowing down the process. Yeah. Nothing else, It's just slowing down. So I think that such agencies like Giga, we just discussed, these are important bodies to work on a global basis to guide us to the right direction, I think. So because technology at the end of the day is quite, in a digital world, it's super strong. It's super strong.
It's very powerful.
Maybe too strong. Yeah.
So we need think tanks, and we'll talk about this later. Yugoslav, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to share with you one funny story. There is a fake news that cannot be beaten by any artificial intelligence or legislation. So you probably all know for this tabloid Informer
Serbian.
in Serbia, and there is a guy called Dragan Vučićević. He is the editor-in-chief. That magazine put this porn photo on the front page saying that it is Croatian President Kolinda Grabar-Kitarović and then be forced to apologize tomorrow. So I'm just going to tell you a small story about him, about fake news that got nothing to do with the politics, but it's really, really funny. The guy was working for another tabloid, Kurir. And, the eastern Serbia on the border with Romania is very well known in Serbia by a huge superstition. There's many people that are superstitious, living over there. And whenever those funny stories are coming, they're usually coming from eastern Serbia. And there was a story that the Drekavac showed up in eastern Serbia. I don't know, are we familiar with that term? Drekavac is like kind of mythological being.
Boogeyman.
Sorry?
Like a boogeyman.
Boogeyman, yes, or vampire, or whoever, And then he's been sent by the editor-in-chief of Kurir to go there to make a story about, like, superstition people, like, about that phenomenon, etc., etc. So he got back after 2 days, and he brought the interview with records. Can you believe that? The guy got back with interviews saying, yeah, we were staying there, I was talking to him for 2 hours, he didn't want it to make to be a photograph, but I can describe him. And then, do you think he didn't have an audience for that? He did. He did. As he has audience for his fake news today. So how do you fight that? I mean, it's funny.
Yeah, and probably that story went viral, and it was also shared through Facebook and through social media. And if I go back to Matej, the biggest algorithm deciding which news we read right now is your, excuse me for the word, it's acronym faggots, Facebook's, Google's, Amazon, Twitter. They're the strongest algorithm that decides which boogeyman comes to our home. So, are they part of the solution or part of the problem? Another tough question. I hope you guys are taking notes.
I would say, this faggot, these are companies, and these are businesses,
Yeah.
and they use technology for as a part of their business, and I'm sure that those companies, they have a very clear agenda, and it's not based on the fake news. I'm absolutely sure. But the technology itself is very hard to control because they just provide the technology for the global users. And at the end of the day, users are the guys who are giving the content. Because Twitter without the tweets is just a tool. Or Facebook without users is just a tool.
Facebook doesn't check what is the content.
Facebook have controls like, tricky stuff. But the content, if I say now that Slovenia will qualify for the semi-final now in Croatia, it will stay there. Nobody will control. Yeah. And I hope this is not a fake news, by the way, but that's another story.
It's just a stretch.
Yeah, nobody will control that. So, yeah, there is no 100% control, I think.
Tjaša, Twitter is nothing without users, but when the users are such prominent figures as regional, local, and global leaders as as Trump, what do we do? Do we listen to them or we just ignore them? We have a lot of Slovenian politicians that attack Slovenian businessmen, and they're contributing to very poisonous environment for investors. What should we do? Should we ignore them, or how do you?
I think that we should ignore. But the problem is because there are 2 billion users of Facebook, 2 billion, and 330,000 users of Twitter. So, and people spend hours on Facebook and Twitter, and then you can imagine what happened when this fake news is distributed or circulated online. I think that also the users, we are a problem because we believe a lot of people they're on Facebook. They don't read newspapers. They're just on Facebook and they just read the articles on Facebook, and they don't know the problem is also because the people who produced fake news, they also have the websites with very tricky names, very similar to one serious media, and then just put some words. So I think that the solution is not that over-regulation, but maybe to educate people.
Yeah, okay.
Education. So about tweets, I suggest that we ignore those bad tweets or
just ignore them.
Yes, of course.
So let's see what happens when somebody tweets something that's not even a fake news. It's not even a fake. It's not even a word. What happens when somebody tweets kofefe? I am inviting Jure Tepina of Clipping, and he will take you through social media as means of leadership and governance. So how far can kofefe take us?
Good morning. Imagine. It was year 2017, Eastern morning, just a few minutes after the midnight. And the President of the United States did what Mr. President often does at those odd hours. He sent out a tweet. And it was all about one single word. Please raise your hands if you know the meaning of the word kofifi. No one?
Is that how it's spelled?
I don't know. Help me. Don't worry, you are totally normal if you don't know the meaning. But unless the odd hours, this nonsense tweet struck our universe above all expectations. Look at the numbers. Look at the immediate and enormous engagement of his followers. We are talking about almost 300,000 reactions in less than 3 hours' time after the tweet was published. 300,000. After 3 hours, this tweet was deleted, as it meant nothing. It was typo. But nevertheless, this tweet became one of the most famous tweets in 2017, maybe even in the whole history of Twitter. But the story went on. 3 hours later, the same person, the same Mr. President, sent out another tweet, making fun out of the first one. And later that day, his communications director at the White House had to explain multiple questions regarding coffee fee. At the press briefing, even more, Wikipedia published official record of the coffee fee shortly after the event. But we still don't know what coffee fee is. So let's Google it. Yeah, it's official. Believe it or not, there were 7 million Google searches shortly after the tweet was published. 7 million searches. Imagine that every single search takes only 10 seconds. All people together would spend 2.5 years searching for coffee fee. What a waste of time. Try to translate that into your working hours. Nonsense. Some of you might say that this could happen only in the United States, but wrong. According to Google Trends, yes, Americans followed by Canadians are the first one most interested in searching of coffee fee. But the third place goes to Norwegians, followed by Australians and the citizens of Kenya, which is amazing. And we still don't know what coffee fee is. This enormous interest on Google lasted for 14 days. But even now, much later after this tweet was published, the references to that tweet are very, very much alive. So much alive that the real question is, where does this end? And we don't know, because it went viral. The snowball effect has begun, and there are tons of jokes, pictures, references, likes, dislikes, and shares among other social media platforms. Even non-social media are engaged, international and Slovenian, only a few figures to show. Why is this so important? Speaking of social media, it's impossible to predict, prevent, or limit the consequences of such communication. This should be rather a harmless and funny example, but the power that lies in the hands of a single social media communicator and the social platform is absolutely terrifying. Try to connect the potential power of social media with the words like manipulation, propaganda, or fake news. Nowadays, every news we hear or read should be a subject of very critical judgment, regardless of the source, and I believe that our distinguished guests could tell us much more and much better about that. And the power of social media is exceptional, but can also be exceptionally abused. This was only one example from the overseas. We have much more examples, but maybe some of the future AmCham breakfasts will be a place to discuss them as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jure. And I can assure you, and Aisha will assure you, that that was really fake news. Breakfasts will continue. So if we take a reference from Donald Trump, he also has a habit, he has a lot of habits, but at some point he tweeted, we will announce a major military defense policy change, and then there was about 14 minutes delay. And all the worlds and all the generals were waiting for his next words, what will happen? So my question is, how do we behave in a world where 140 or 280 characters can ruin your business plan? Yeah. You were talking about emotions and artificial intelligence, but how do we, as a businessman, Tjaša said, let's just ignore it, and how do we cope with this?
In general, I think that we have a challenge about the leaders of this globe, about the trust in the leaders of this globe. And people use this virtual world as a separate world. And this is a big challenge, I don't know, in that direction with our Y and Z generation, which is coming. They live most of the time in a virtual world.
But we're the first generation that can feel physical consequences of a digital world.
Exactly, and we haven't grown in this system. You know, we are learning now, and you know, you have 300,000 retweets or likes on the Ko-fi. You know, it's unbelievable actually, because people replied or liked even something on what there is no meaning behind. And I think it's a lack of leadership in this globe, you know, and also in the business, you know, when we think about how to manage and how to lead our businesses for the next generation, and we are not talking about the 20 years ahead, we're talking about the 5 to 10 years ahead. You know, the things are changing significantly and enormously. And I just liked a study which was launched recently, you know, what are the competencies of the leadership of the globe. And I think that we can use this also as a global leadership, not just for the businesses. Because in the businesses, we are looking for the trust. You need to trust to your leader, otherwise we have a problem. You know, somebody needs to be a captain. And, you know, it's all about the agile leadership based on that, because you see that the world is changing in a milliseconds, not in a seconds even anymore. So, you know, for the agile leaders, you know, being humble, you know, that's something which inspired me much, you know, because being humble doesn't mean that you are weak, you are not decisive. That actually means that you as a leader, you know what exactly you don't know. And this is as valuable as you know what you do know. It's a bit complicated, but actually you need to be fair to yourself, and you need to be open to your people around yourself that you don't know everything anymore. Because old-fashioned style, you know, was a leader, you know, on the statue, I know everything, shut down the globe and ask me, you know, I know everything, and it was a kind of authority. Today, the leaders are completely different. Being humble, be part of the community. And behaviors like this are absolutely far away from that. Ko-fi-fi, you know, I will use now ko-fi-fi, you know. Being adaptable, you know, all the time searching for new knowledge because things are changing. And being adaptable to your minds. And admit, yes, you're right, I will change my mind because of that. It's again not against my authority. You know, being visionary, you know, for our leaders, being politicians or businessmen, you know. Being visionary means that you set the direction, although you don't know how to get there, because things are changing on the way. So, you know, being engaged, being part of the community, not being somewhere else in the office nearby in the corner, and, you know, you are second class and I'm the only one. So, you know, things are really, really changing. And for the people, for the leaders who are not able to make such a transformation, I think it's not a problem for them, but it's a problem for us. Because if we have such leaders, we will go in the wrong direction. I'm such a passionate about this, and it's all starts with people. It's all starts with the mindset, and it's all starts with the perception of the globe. And here technology, you know, artificial intelligence, robots, machine learning, all these buzzwords, you know, will be minimized when we set the criteria of values and culture. And that's what we miss at this stage.
But Jugoslav, what do we do when our leaders are not so inspiring? What if our leaders are
yeah, we always have elections,
genius.
You know, so that's the only answer. You know, you cannot fight that, you know. Well, can you imagine, like, the American generals that are finding out what's going to happen in the near future at the same very moment, like millions of others? So we have a similar situation in Serbia. You know, there is no country in which, like, president of the state is such annoyed by the Twitter people like he is. But Donald Trump is annoyed by the media, but since due to the fact that the president of Serbia is controlling 90% of the media in Serbia, he's not annoyed by the media, he's annoyed by the Twitter. And if it would be up to him, I'm 100% sure we would end up like North Korea, you know, without any social networks and anything. But this is something he cannot really control. But we have the same situation, you know, like the Serbian journalists also, the journalists if the Interior Ministry, the whole Serbian government very often find out what's going to happen on his press conferences. Business people also. Sometimes he's not sharing his plans and ideas even with the government, and we all find out what's going to happen on the press conferences when he's inspired. He's going out with some plans and news. And what I can tell you, you know, we cannot change the people that are ruling the country themselves, you know, and it's simply senseless. If you ask me, I think that our president is the same guy with the same mindset like he used to be in '98 when he was a Minister for Information. He's just wearing like the better dress, you know. He's packed in that global idea and Serbian gravitation of European integration and everything else. There is some borders. But talking about media, about his private feelings, I think he's the same. So I don't think we can change him inside. I think we can change him on the elections. That's it. Elections are the answer.
Tjaša, we'll have double elections this year. I'm not going to ask you how are we going to approach to this, because this is an ongoing conversation and we have a lot of discussion about fake news in our newsroom. But what do you expect? Will there be a resurgence? Will there be a lot of fake news coming into this election season? What do we expect?
Yes, I believe that we will face with the fake news like was during the US election, before parliamentary election this year. I believe in project like it was the project in France, I think. It was the cross-check, where the several journalists from the several media, different media, they use the same platform, and they check all news, all photos, everything what was circling around. And I think that also in Slovenia we need that kind of project, like cross-check. And I think that we as a Pop TV, we will invest our resources and energy to create that project on our website.
Jugoslav, we are sometimes, as a Slovenia, we say we're small and we not on the radar of the big global forces. But if we take into example in French elections, Emmanuel Macron denied access to Russian medias, to Sputnik and Russia TV, because they were spreading fake news about his campaign. And he also talked about Russians at the press conference with Putin, that Russians are using Facebook to spy on Macron's campaign. Fake news is also one of the tools for the foreign agents. Slovenia is very small. We probably don't expect this at our elections, but Serbia is much more exposed to influences from the East and West. How should we deal with fake news coming from foreign governments, foreign interests?
Well, it says for a small country, you know, when elephant fights, you know, you better get out. You know. So this is actually what is happening in Serbia. We are totally innocent, I would say, and we actually end up in the focus of the global powers. And whenever it used to happen in Serbia, sorry for the language, we've been fucked up, you know, in any mean, you know, in mean of economy or politics or everything. I really don't have an answer. You know, I think that nobody is honest, including the Serbian government. So the Russians are not there because they would like to help Serbia, because they love us so much, desperately. So the European Union is also not there because they love us, especially media. And I'm going to tell you, you know, they keep telling in their annual reports no progress in the media. Well, technically, yes, but we regret it. And it is not written in those reports about Serbian progress in European integration. Johannes Hahn, the commissioner, was to Serbia last year, and he said in front of all national cameras, "Show me the proof there is censorship and pressure on the media in Serbia." Well, Mr. Hahn, they don't issue the receipts for censorship and pressure on the media. It's hard to prove. But if you watch the TV station, if you read the papers, you will suddenly realize what's actually is going on. So they are not honest, and our government is actually not honest, and it's a kind of schizophrenic situation. You know, we are like heading to European Union, but we will never like read out of our brothers of Russians.
Slavic brothers.
Yeah, Slavic brothers, you know. And it's very hard to cope with a situation in which nobody is honest. Actually, nobody is your friend, you know. And I think that just rational politics that look after the interest of the nation, of the country, is the answer. So I do not, if you ask me, I do not see that politics that care that deeply about the country, not about party interest or interest to stay on power or anything else.
All right, so we established that fake news, fake information, propaganda is a very strong political and economical agent. It can also be part of hybrid warfare. We used to say that pen is mightier than a sword. Now we can say that enter is probably stronger than bombs. Uroš Majcem from S&T will take us through how do we timely detect and prevent cyber threats as covfefe can be.
Good morning, everyone. Now, as we have heard today much about technology, machine learning, algorithms, each technology is like a coin. It has two sides. It can be used for positive purposes, and it can be used for malicious purposes. That's the reality that we have in, and that's what will continue as such. So what do we do about it? Can we say, I don't care? Or should we do something about it to improve our lives? Now, as we have heard a lot about fake news, this is creating news. The second problem is delivering the news. What we see right now is people are delivering to themselves exactly the news that they want. Do you agree with me? That is how those new news feeds work on Facebook or in Google. Because you trust them. Imagine we live in a world where people trust more one YouTube clip about vaccination than all the doctors in the world. That's the world that we live in. So that's exactly the same as we live in the security world. When we live in security, there is a hot topic right now. Do we have a black box that would help us, a piece of technology that has all the machines and algorithms inside that will help all our problems? No. Never, ever. Who knows about Google DeepMind project? Anybody? Last year they had a very interesting game. Two robots, different systems, fighting who will pick most apples in the orchard. And you know what happened? How one of those systems won. Not by being the most successful, by disabling the other one. That's the reality, and that's business, and that's fake news. Because if anybody sees the value in pointing this, it's his business or personal interest. Now, we would all like to have that we live in a free world, so that nobody has control over us, but we would like to have somebody at least taking care of our security, right? Combing through our news, checking our emails, taking down fake websites, cyber criminals, and others that do disruptive businesses. And this is the world that we have right now, and it's a big one. So this is one of the most brilliant slides because nobody can read it, right? But now you need to trust me delivering the news. That's from the last year's Davos Forum about the global risk landscape. We all talk about risks. Now what they have identified are two risks that are high, either by likelihood on the x-axis or by the impact. Number one here is the cyber attacks. Why? Because everything is interconnected. Because everything is interconnected, delivered immediately, it has a wide disruption. Second, it's data fraud or theft, whatever you want to talk about it. And those two topics are here that I will going to address a little bit. So, what funny enough is that cyber attacks are very much high as terrorist attacks, and more than, for example, asset bubbles that we had a couple of years ago here in Slovenia. So what are we going to do about it? Now, these you can see much better now, right? These are the biggest data breaches of the 21st century. This is not my slide. I used other sources for this. Let me talk about a couple of those businesses here. Immediately, you see a huge impact on companies. Millions of users internally affected, or billions by the Yahoo. Why is Yahoo very important? I believe if somebody could take very good care about the Yahoo case, it's one of the first cases where they use two things. First is they didn't care about the Yahoo. They care about users. How many of you have received emails from unknown sources saying that they would like to have you pay an invoice or you do something for them? Because they were unknown sources, you didn't trust them, right? But what if it was a viable source from the Yahoo account? And this is what happened. In American elections, the Democratic National Convention users were breached because they received emails from the Yahoo. Now, second thing for this one here is interesting. They are a public company and they didn't disclose it. They sold their stocks before they disclosed it. And now they are being investigated. So this is the second problem because there is nobody controlling the effect of the cyber threats. There is no legislation yet in place, yet. There is no regulation. We are fighting for it right now. We are fighting for it. Now, how do we respond? How do we respond? We didn't come to this just today. A lot of people talked about information security, right? Information security. You always heard about information security, information security. Yes, but if that would solve all our problems, we wouldn't be here right now, talking about the risk landscape, the effects that it has on the system. Now, we need to do something, and this comes to me in one simple story. Do you remember when we had the legislation that put up together, for example, that we need to have headlights on our cars on all the time? You remember how long the debate was running? And how much all the people were saying, oh no, that's stupid, it will cost so much cost for us, for fuel consumption and all other things. And now it's the reality. Because it makes sense. And it's 1960s where we have the seat belts, how long the story about the steel seat belts lasted. That's exactly, I think, that we are fighting for right now, what to do when we talk about addressing cybersecurity. We need to do something because it has a huge disruption, personally, countrywide, and business-wide. Now, the key, and why I believe in, are the proper people. Not machines and not algorithms, but the proper people. Because if you don't know that this is a problem, then there is no point talking about technology. You can always buy technology. It's not a problem. There are tons of vendors out there. This is a $100 billion market for the security. It's the proper people. Process is the second thing. And here, we need to have a push from the legislation perspective in order to tip the companies, businesses to do something about it. The key here is this, how to respond when you have an incident. We talked about the effects of tweets immediately. This is the same in the cyberspace. Immediate effect on your business. Now, two things which I would like to say, and it comes out, is the being able to detect the incident, which if you live in a movie 20 years ago, see no evil, hear no evil, think no evil. If you don't know about it, you don't care. If you don't care, who cares? I don't know, I don't address it, I don't do properly something about it. The second thing is being able to analyze it correctly. That's the human problem. We might detect it, but we won't do nothing about here lessons learned. Have we learned something about it? Have we adapted to it? Have we changed our business, our technology? Have we done something internally and externally? That's something that we need to do. Now, foundation is visibility. Now, I do very much believe that the cyber world, the digital world, is like physical world. You need to do the same things. Otherwise, people would live in the digital world and think about it and go, there is nobody controlling it, there's no same mechanisms. what we talk about here is similar. These are the gates and the guards. These are the end users, your machines, your mobile phones that receive the tweets, the emails, the threats. And this is the flow between. In order to know what are your threats, you need to have everything together. Addressing just one, you're lost. That's like in the company. Yeah, somebody breached the gate and nobody knows what's going on inside, right? It's the same in the digital world, where there are no boundaries. Now, practical examples here. What I'm trying to say to you is that we can fight it, and there are ways to fight it. Even in countries like Slovenia, which is far smaller and have far less financial capabilities, like, for example, huge American companies. There's a couple of terms which are used. Why? Industry branch-based. Why? Because threats are different in banking than the threats in the healthcare. You need to know the business. That's why you have the hybrid module. As a service, you hire somebody to help you go through this. Don't build on your own, because you will never ever have enough of what I have said is the critical component, people. Are we doing something here in Slovenia, just to be said that we are bragging? Yes, we do. We are quite successful about it. This is what is in the works. Hopefully, Mr. Boždić will confirm this, will be hopefully soon passed in the parliament, which will enable us. These are some practical examples. There's a lot of chatter about it within the companies. And this is what is running. Funny enough, the public sector is leading the way here to address this. Now, I think I consumed more than 5 minutes, right? Yeah. And anyway, this was the last session, so hopefully you don't take bad feelings about me talking a bit longer.
No, Uroš was our last presenter. Thank you, Uroš. Very interesting, as always. Also from the perspectives of GDPR, which is another buzzword coming around these days. For the end, Matej, the public was very quiet all the time. I think we captivated their imagination, their thought process. For the end, maybe we're in very emotional state right now. Probably a little panicky, but we shouldn't be. You were talking about that that it's about evolution, not revolution. That we need time to adapt to all of this process, that the fake news will not ruin us and will not rule us over the night. So what should we take from this?
I think it's important that we talk openly about all the challenges we face. But, as I said, it's a world of opportunities. And to tackle the right opportunities, we just need to be agile. We need to be genuine, and we need to be authentic, especially when you are in a driving seat as a leader, because we are, the leaders are, it's a responsibility to be inspired, to all the people, and give the right direction. So, but, be optimistic, because there is so many opportunities, new opportunities, but we need to be super, super active. All the threats on the way, yes, we will handle it, believe me. And there is no limits for being human being at this moment of time.
So the key word is adaptability, probably.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, all three panelists. And at the end, are there any comments from the audience? Then if our keynote listener was listening very attentively throughout the morning, Mr. Tuk, what are your takeaways?
It was definitely a very interesting debate, and also very interesting interventions from your guest speakers. I'm afraid somehow I think there was one basic misconception in this debate, and that is that you have fake news here, and then there is a brick wall, and then you have the kind of real news elsewhere, and the two are completely different. I think this is a huge misconception. It's a spectrum where you have total malicious fabrication on one side, and then you have biased, skewed, manipulative reporting, and at the other end of the spectrum you have really truthful journalists looking for truth, etc. And I am not afraid of malicious fabrication or the impact of that. I am afraid of that gray area in between where you have a little bit of truth, a little bit of untruth, a little bit of manipulation, and so on. So I think it would be very wrong to build any EU policies on this notion that you have fake news on one side, real news on the other. And it would be, if you want me to say it in another way, it would be very dangerous to set up basically repressive policies on a concept that Donald Trump is using to hand out awards to the media, like the fakies or the fake news awards. It's dangerous. This does not mean that in the media space and in the public space, which is now a mixture of media and public debating, you don't have certain issues, certain problems that do need to be tackled. I think the most important, or one of them, is the private control of public spaces. Private control means Facebook, Twitter, and others controlling the debate, pushing some news, some opinions up, pushing some opinions down, allowing some people to participate, preventing other people not to participate. I dare to say this in this room because I don't think Facebook and Twitter are members of AmCham, but they are members of that European group, and they will have definitely a say, probably against that, because they want free reign on their platforms. The second dangerous thing is the information warfare. It was mentioned here, but now you have state and non-state actors trying to manipulate media and public spaces elsewhere. They speak about ISIS, they speak about Russia, and even if you are a democracy, and even if you are a free speech democracy, you must build up some defenses against that. And then there is the third area, which is the problem that is here to stay, as Matej said, and that is a different kind of public and media space that we have. And this is the space without gatekeepers, this is the space without editors. In the old space, these editors, these gatekeepers would be responsible, and through that responsibility, they would be raising the quality of the public debate. They are gone. You cannot replace them by algorithms. You cannot replace them by AI. You cannot replace them by legislation. But what you can do is make everybody who is taking part in the debate more responsible and more liable. And probably the first step of that is that you're encouraging, that you're enforcing real identities. So when something is published, so when something is said on Facebook, on forums, on 24.com, that is a verified real identity, and if it offended somebody, and if it was hate speech or something, you can go legally against that person, not against the person that was providing the platform. So that's my
takeaway. Thank you very much.
To do in the future.
Thank you very much on point. So at the end, in a real world of fake news and alternative facts, let me leave you with this. German linguists have declared the phrase alternative facts by White House aide Kellyanne Conway the non-word of 2017. Think about it. Non-word. It's the practice of replacing factual arguments with claims that cannot be proven. And growing practice is something we all should adapt to. And we should adapt to the words that are not even a word. So, politicians don't last. Robots do, but robots are not the ones that are running society. People do, and we should leave it at this. We should change the society to the better. Thank you very much for coming here, and have a nice day. Thank you very much.